All right, let's talk about those massive trucks we see everywhere. They're literally the lifeblood of our economy, right? But behind the wheel of every single one is a professional, someone operating under a whole set of rules and pressures most of us can't even begin to imagine. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at the incredible skill it takes to be one of these highway kings.
It's a heavy question for sure, but it's something every single pro driver lives with every day. So what's the answer? It's a ton of training, it's discipline, and it's a mindset that is always, and I mean always, focused on safety. And that responsibility, it starts way before the truck even moves an inch.
You know, for most of us, getting ready to drive just means grabbing our keys and we're out the door. Well, for a commercial driver, the workday kicks off with this super meticulous, legally required inspection. And we're not talking about a quick walk around. This is a serious deep dive into the health of a really complex machine.
Now this is what's so interesting. It's a total shift in perspective. You're not just looking to see if everything looks okay. You are actively hunting for the one tiny thing that could turn into a huge, catastrophic failure down the road. It is a completely different level of awareness.
And this right here just shows you what the stakes are. See that bit about rust around a wheel nut? That's not just a cosmetic thing. The manual tells you that's a sign the nut is loose and the wheel could literally come off. Any oil on the brake shoes? Forget about it. That means you have no brakes. And look at this, if just a quarter of the leaf springs in the suspension are gone, that truck is immediately taken out of service. It's that serious.
And believe it or not, the inspection doesn't just stop when you hit the road. Federal rules actually make drivers recheck their cargo securement within the first 50 miles of any trip. Why? Because stuff shifts and settles, you know? And what was secure at the start might become really dangerous just a few miles later.
Okay, so let's get this rig rolling. Once it's out on the highway, the driver basically becomes a master of applied physics. They're constantly juggling these immense forces, dimensions, and momentum. It's just on a scale that's a whole different world from your average car. First, let's talk height. 13 feet 6 inches. Every single bridge, every tunnel, every overpass on their route is a potential hazard they have to know about long before they ever get close to it.
Then there's the width. 102 inches. That's 8.5 feet wide, trying to stay perfectly centered in a lane that's maybe 12 feet wide if you're lucky. We're talking about 1.5 feet of clearance on either side at 60 miles an hour.
And of course, the big one, 80,000 pounds, 40 tons of pure momentum. To put that in perspective for you, that's like the weight of 20 normal cars, all being controlled by just one person. So what does all that weight actually mean in the real world? Well, it means you can't just slam on the brakes. The official CDL manual says that at 55 miles per hour, in perfect conditions, it takes over 400 feet to come to a complete stop. That is longer than a football field, from goal line to goal line. And here's where things get really weird and kind of counterintuitive. You'd think an empty truck would stop faster, right? Nope, it's the opposite. The whole system, the brakes, the tires, the suspension, it's all designed to work best under a full load. An empty truck has less weight pushing down on the tires, which means less traction, and it can actually take longer to stop than a fully loaded one. Ever see a truck making a really wide turn, sometimes swinging into the next lane, and wonder what's going on? It's because of this thing called off-tracking. The back wheels don't follow the same path as the front ones. They cut the corner. And the longer the truck, the more they cut that corner. So the driver has to swing way out just to avoid taking out curbs or signs or you. So when you think about all those physical challenges, it becomes pretty clear that the most important skill a driver has is actually mental. It's all about this 360-degree awareness, proactively managing that space, that bubble, around their truck at all times. So how far ahead are you looking when you drive? A pro driver is trained to be looking 12 to 15 seconds ahead. At highway speeds, that means they're looking a full quarter mile down the road. They're not just reacting to the car in front of them. They're playing chess, anticipating problems way before they even happen. So drivers are always working to protect that safety bubble. They've got specific rules for following distance, they're painfully aware of their huge blind spots, and they try to avoid driving in packs. And get this, if someone is tailgating them, their trained response isn't to get mad, it's to increase the space in front of them. That gives them more room to slow down nice and easy if they need to, protecting themselves and the person behind them. It's brilliant, really. This quote, it's straight from the driver's manual, and it says everything. Because of those massive blind spots, backing up a big rig is one of the most hazardous things they do.
They're actually trained to plan their routes and parking to avoid it completely if they can, and to always use a helper, a spotter, if they absolutely have to do it.
But what happens when, even with all the planning and the careful inspections, something goes horribly wrong? This is where that training and a cool head can be the only difference between a close call and a massive catastrophe.
Just imagine it for a second. There's a loud bang. The whole truck lurches to one side. Your every single instinct is screaming at you to do one thing. But what's the correct thing to do?
This is it, the single most important and most unnatural thing to do. The manual is super clear. Hitting the brakes, especially if a front tire blows, can make you lose control completely. The right way to handle it is to grip the wheel tight, stay off the brake, and let the truck's own drag slow it down before you gently pull over.
Okay, here's another nightmare scenario for you. You're heading down a long, steep hill. You push the brake pedal, and nothing. The truck starts picking up speed. Your life, and everyone else's downhill from you, depends on what you do next. What are you scanning the side of the road for?
This, an escape ramp. It is literally a lifeline built into the side of a mountain. These things are long beds of loose, soft gravel, usually on an uphill slope, and they're designed specifically to bring a runaway truck to a safe stop. Yeah, it'll probably wreck the truck, but it will save your life.
And even in a skid, there's a procedure. Notice that first step again? Stop doing the thing that feels natural, braking. You have to let the wheels start rolling again to get traction. Then you steer into the skid, but, and this is the tricky part, you have to be ready to immediately counter-steer, to turn the wheel back the other way to stop from whipping around. It's like a delicate, high-speed dance.
So, we've covered the machine, we've covered the physics, but the most critical piece of equipment in any truck is the person sitting behind the wheel. Managing the human factor, fatigue, health, focus, that is the ultimate test of a true professional.
The manual could not be more clear about this. You can't fight being tired with coffee or just by toughing it out. A drowsy driver is every bit as dangerous as a drunk one. The only cure is sleep. Knowing when it's time to pull over and rest isn't a sign of weakness. It is the absolute mark of a professional.
And yeah, the standards for commercial drivers are, as you'd expect, way tougher. While the legal limit for most of us is 0.08%, for a commercial driver, it's half that, just 0.04. And check this out. If a driver has any detectable alcohol below that, even as low as 0.02, they are immediately put out of service for 24 hours. There is zero tolerance. So the next time you're on the highway and you see a big rig roll by, maybe you'll see a little more than just a truck. You'll see a professional who's gone through a whole gauntlet of inspections, who's constantly managing physics and space, and who's trained to handle the absolute unthinkable. Definitely something to consider the next time you think about cutting one off.